Colorado. Got to ask you this before we get to some of these games this weekend. You were quoted as, basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, saying, Colorado sucks. I'm paraphrasing. But tell everybody why you're not as high on Colorado as half the population in Colorado is.
Half the population?
That's true.
The entire population, maybe. First of all, let's go back, because I could have never imagined that people would take some of the leaps that they've taken with my comments. Number one, I wasn't comparing them to UMass. We were talking about the UMass-New Mexico State game in week 0, like 35 minutes earlier in the deal. The guy that I'm doing the show with said, man, I kind of thought that UMass might have the worst roster in college football. And so it got me thinking later on in the show, because I had somebody ask me last week what you just asked me right there. It's like, well, how improved is Colorado's roster? And I was like, all right, let's get into it. Now, you guys know me well enough. Like, I may not be the brightest bulb in the room, but I don't think I'm the dumbest either. Like, do you think I would literally compare Colorado's roster to 133 teams? No. I'm talking about the Power 5, right? Yeah. Okay, the teams that they have to compete against. So last week, about the end of last week, before we had this show earlier this week, I started looking it up. I started looking at all the teams, all right? And I don't know about you guys. I found 2 other teams at the Power 5 level. And I should have been more clear on this that I was referencing Power 5, but to make an assumption that I'm comparing their roster to 132 other teams is ridiculous. But I saw Northwestern and Stanford.
That's what I was going to guess.
Those are the only 2 teams that you can look at right now that you would say that are in the discussion, because I said may, I didn't say is, that may be the worst rosters in college football. Like, everybody else won 3 or 4 or more games, okay, at the Power 5 level. And so here's the thing, like, everybody seems to be like on this bandwagon without really kind of peeling back the layers of this roster as it is now. Did they go out and upgrade and improve some spots? Yes, they're upgraded at quarterback. I referenced that. They probably have 2 first-rounders at corner. One of them is going to play both ways in Travis Hunter. I referenced that. The running back from Houston, Alton McCaskill, really good player, okay? And I think they did a pretty good job also in the 2023 recruiting cycle. I think Dylan Edwards is going to be a really good player, the running back for him. It's great. One thing you didn't hear me say, you didn't hear me mention a lineman.
Nope.
Right? And when we have this conversation about Colorado, you can't – when I look at a roster in its entirety, you have to know that you're not going out there and winning a game with 11 only on offense and 11 only on defense and 11 in the kicking game, right? You're going to have 60 some odd guys of Power 5 level talent to truly weather that storm, right? To run that gauntlet. So when I hear everybody talk about, Dominic Jordan, is that the defensive end that's from Arkansas that went there? Okay, there's one. Nobody ever references the guys they took in the portal from Maine, Old Dominion, Kent State, Missouri State, Robert Morris, Northwestern State, Southern Utah. Like, I think it's fair to look at this roster and say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean it can't be done, guys? Does that mean that they cannot succeed in the future? No. Of course it doesn't mean that. But I'm looking at this. It was not a good transfer portal cycle. There were not elite players. There were a couple of players that were elite players in the transfer portal cycle. I don't know if outside of Travis Hunter they got any of them. I look at the front on both sides of the ball. That's the problem, guys. And I don't understand why everybody thinks it's such a stretch to still say their roster could be in trouble right now.
Yeah. But when you look in the mirror and you see dark spots, they're not going away on their own, and you're not a Dalmatian. Or if you are, take that costume off. Cruella de Vil's around the corner. You need help from Genucel's Dark Spot Corrector. It has not 1, but 3 cutting-edge ingredients, and they go to work fast on sunspots, dark spots, liver spots. You keep your liver spotted hands off my mother. And even old discoloration, both on your face and hands. You'll be amazed at how quickly you'll see the results, and you can now enjoy what is left of the summer sun beach, and barbecues, which we got a lot of barbecues at tailgates coming up. You don't want to be walking around with spots, all right? You don't want to look like the sun during the winter, okay? So with Genucel, you'll see your results or get your money back with no questions asked. That's a guarantee, all right? So go to Genucel.com/booster. That's GENUCEL.com/booster right now to get your dark spot corrector with the new Genucel most popular package and say goodbye to those pesky spots. And they're offering free shipping, free returns, and the best luxury skincare you've ever used at 70% off. It's a deal of the century. All orders will include a mystery luxury gift box while supplies last. That's Genucel.com/booster. The Booster Club loves it. Genucel is a fantastic product. Well, that's why football to me is the greatest sport and it's the greatest team sport. When we talk about this with other teams, one guy cannot go out there and play really good while everybody else plays bad and the team win. This isn't baseball. You can't go out there and throw a perfect game and your team scores one run on an error and you win the game. This isn't basketball where you have Shaquille O'Neal or LeBron or Steph Curry or somebody goes out there and goes nuts for one game and everybody else can just play okay. Shadur Sanders can't operate if they can't protect him. McCaskill and them can't run well if there's nowhere to run. The DBs can't cover people for 8 seconds if the D-line can't get there. And it's okay to take a couple guys from smaller schools, we see it, that come over and do well. But when you're taking all of them from smaller schools, that's a tough pill to swallow, especially up front. It's a whole hell of a lot easier for a guy playing wide receiver to go up a level and have a ton of success at that next level. There's not a whole lot of guys at left tackle that can come from the FCS level or D1 AA level and come up to the Power 5 level and be able to block some of the guys he's got to block. That's just that's not how it works.
No, it's not. And, here's the thing that I look at. Like somebody yesterday on College Football Live, we were talking about, what would the expectation level be or what should it be? And my answer is to improve your win total, okay? To improve the competitiveness of the games in which you play, meaning that instead of losing on an average margin of 34 points, okay, you may lose, but you lose by 21. You lose by 14. You know what that is? That's realistic expectation. Progress. And I think progress and improvement, right? And listen, I understand Deion Sanders. His job is to instill confidence and belief in his football team. I love that. I'm great with that. But I feel like all of this hype is being set up for failure in year one, right? Because they're setting an unattainable expectation level in a conference that's got the best quarterback play in America, and they have a brutal road schedule. Like, I'm looking at the schedule, guys, and I see a possible win with Colorado State, a possible win with Stanford, and then depending on what, let's just say, Arizona State is, they got to go on the road to Tempe. I'm literally dissecting that schedule and trying to figure out where are the other wins coming from. And I hear people say, oh, dude, they could get to 5 or 6 or 7. Where? Yeah. Like, and I'm not knocking Deion Sanders or the staff. I'm just realistically sitting back and going, guys, I mean, this roster is still, it might be upgraded. What was the upgrade? Was it from the worst of the worst to slightly above that? Or is it the worst of the worst to we've got a bunch of guys that can go out and go toe-to-toe with Washington and Oregon and SC? Yeah. Well, let's be realistic here.
Yeah, you're not going from Sputnik to SpaceX. That's not going to happen. That's really tough.
May in the future.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Once it's built up, But again, I wouldn't say you were Sputnik once he builds it up. I want to get to LSU, Florida State, but the question about Deion is what happens when it doesn't start going good. That's what we haven't seen yet with Deion Sanders. All this talk, what happens when it's going bad? But that remains to be seen. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. That's something we haven't seen yet, though.
I'll say this real quick on that is I think sometimes that's one area where I think he may have backed himself into a corner a little bit in the sense that setting that expectation for year one because they went out and basically just shuffled the roster around. He didn't need to set that expectation. Everybody's expecting them to not be a very good football team, right? So let everybody believe that. And if you go out and you show improvement, if you go out and you win 3 games versus 1 the year before, you look like a genius.
Undersell
right?
and overperform.
Absolutely.
Undersell and overperform. Hey, YouTube, you're not going to find better sports content than what you'll find here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're almost to 100,000 subscribers, which is amazing. We'd appreciate it. If you subbed, then get a friend to sub.